Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Just another look, final look at what is the featherweight contest between Artingstall of the United Kingdom and Furtado of Brazil. Scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's featherweight division, what would serve as a common opponent between Artingstall and another unbeaten up-and-comer from the United Kingdom, Raven Chapman, one of my favorites, who we often talk about. Furtado was last in action opposite the ring Raven Chapman, who gave Leela her first professional loss, though it wasn't easy.
Would be easy for Artingstall.
Artingstall sports a professional record of 5 wins with no losses, no draws, 1 recorded knockout. Only 1 recorded knockout, but her power, it is coming along.
She can punch.
Even though she only has 1 recorded knockout, she's got some pop, and the same applies to Furtado of Brazil, who sports a professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 1 recorded knockout. She's only got 1 knockout, but from what I saw in the Chapman fight, Leela's got some pop. Leela has some strength.
Mid-range to inside fighter, combination puncher. Very aggressive and durable.
Durable enough to go the distance with Raven Chapman in a contest that was scheduled for 10 rounds. This contest is only scheduled for 8. They didn't land on Furtado by accident. Artingstall has been calling out Raven Chapman for a domestic clash between unbeaten up-and-comers from the United Kingdom. It just so happens Leela would serve as a common opponent between them, so you see what the strategy is. I gather that Artingstall wants to outdo Raven Chapman.
The who did it better conversation.
Karis debuted as a professional in June of 2022 under the Boxer banner, and she's been boxing with them ever since. She was last in action in October of last year opposite the ring's seasoned journeywoman Vanessa Bradford, who up until that point had never been stopped.
Karis stopped her. Karis, who saw action 3 times last year.
Now she's kicking off this one with an early start, leaving her schedule open to have 2 and 3, maybe even 4 more fights later on this year. But for now, she's got to take care of Leela. And Leela can be a handful mid-range to inside. Furtado, who last saw action in August of last year opposite the ring unbeaten up-and-comer Raven Chapman, who I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Raven, who more often than not has the look of a mid-range to inside pressure fighter.
Yeah.
Likes to sit in the pocket, but so does Leela. And that made for some interesting exchanges and a very scrappy affair when they were opposite the ring each other. Thus, Raven had to make an adjustment, keep some distance, create some space between herself and Furtado.
Tidy up the work, create some separation, and land clean punches. Karis might have to do the same thing.
Karis, whose best punches are her straight punches, her long-range punches from the outside coming in. She can work mid-range to inside,
But her best punches seem to be her long-range punches.
whereas Leela likes to be a little closer, fight in the phone booth. Her best punches are her bent-on punches, her hooks, her body shots.
She'll use the jab to get in, and once she's there, once she's inside, she'll let him go.
The 2 very aggressive girls, Furtado and Artingstall. And as stated, they didn't land on Leela by accident. What Karis means to do is outdo Raven Chapman, put on a better performance, maybe stop Furtado if she can. What I expect her to do, what I think she's going to do, is she's going to have to make the same adjustment that Raven Chapman made when she fought Furtado.
She's gonna have to move around, mitigate the exchanges, and maintain distance.
Create space to get off clean punches, because if you just sit in the pocket with Leela, you're giving Leela what she wants, and that makes for a more scrappy affair in tandem with being in line for Leela's punches, for Leela's hooks. You don't want that.
Furtado, who's an orthodox fighter. Karis, she's a southpaw.
1 or 2 inches taller than Furtado, which is negligible. You will notice, though, that Artingstall is the more slinky fighter of the 2, the more long and limber fighter of the 2. I think she's going to use that to her advantage, move around, try to walk Furtado in the shots. If Leela stays in character and she's as aggressive as she normally is, that opens the door for Karis to walk her into punches. Where normally girls like to retreat and move away from Karis Artingstall as she advances, this one, she's not going to move away. She's going to move towards Karis. She's going to try to bring the fight to Karis.
And we'll see how she deals.
Because the goal here is obvious. They didn't land on Leela by accident. The goal here is upstaging Raven Chapman and dealing with a common opponent between them in better fashion. Now, whether or not Karis will be able to stop Leela, that has yet to be determined. That's why we watch. Leela has never been stopped.
If Karis stops her, that's a statement. That is a statement.
Conservatively, I'm gonna go with Karis Artingstall on points. At minimum, I feel that she can win a points decision, out-hustling and out-maneuvering Leela Furtado and showing the cleaner work and the better boxing. If she actually stops her, well, that'd be impressive.
Look for this on the undercard of Maya versus Jonas.
In other news, as it pertains to the PBC on Amazon deal, per Boxing Insider Rick Glacier, PBC on Amazon has almost no chance of succeeding if it's true that Canelo is fighting Jermall Charlo after fighting his brother, Jermell. It's decisions like this that has led the PBC to be in poor financial situation that it's in right now. A media executive in December called PBC, quote-unquote, basically insolvent. It's just more of the same PBC crap that brought Showtime down and out of the boxing business. What a horrible business decision from all aspects. You're supposed to learn from your mistakes, not further the stupidity. Apparently, the PBC Brain Trust didn't learn from their prior mistakes. PBC had a chance to start fresh with Amazon. Instead, PBC brought the same failed business plan to Amazon.
It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible fight.
For giving me a guy who can't knock out Jose Benavidez, why don't you give me a guy that can? Why don't you give me the guy that did? Why don't you give me Crawford versus Canelo? I think that would do robust numbers at the box office, at least more so than Canelo versus Charlo. Give me Canelo versus Crawford.
Spence versus Crawford did all right at the box office, and we know what Canelo can do when he has the right dance partner. He by himself, he's good for at least between 4 and 500,000 pay-per-view buys. If you put him in there with the right guy, he might bring you $1 million.
Let's not put the cart before the horse. For all this talk of a potential Jermall Charlo fight, it seems that Canelo's countryman, Jaime Munguia, is also in the running for a Canelo fight if he can make it past John Ryder later on this month. In truth, I'm not crazy about either of those fights, but they're both intended to be stay busy fights en route to the Benavidez showdown in September. At least that's what the rumor mill is spinning. So for that, I'd rather see Canelo in there with Jaime than Jermall, because at least Jaime's gonna try, whereas Jermall, he's just another guy that's showing up for a check like his brother.
Like his brother did in Canelo's last fight. I don't want to see Canelo in there with another one of the Charlo flunkies, the Charlo brothers. Enough of them.
For giving me a guy who can't knock out Jose Benavidez, why don't you bring me the one that can? Why don't you bring me the one that did? Why don't you do Canelo versus Crawford? That would do way better at the box office than Canelo versus Charlo.
Canelo versus Crawford or Canelo versus Munguia. The both of those fights would do better at the box office than Canelo versus Charlo.
This is what I meant when I said that the PBC stable and what they're bringing to Amazon, it's all very top-heavy, because you think of names like Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, Gervonta Davis, but what else? What else do you have? The box office fight, the pay-per-view that is intended to kick off the PBC on Amazon deal, is a lightweight contest between Gervonta Davis and Rayo Valenzuela.
That's what the rumor mill is spinning.
Which comes as a surprise to no one. Rayo Valenzuela knocked out Chris Colbert in what was their second fight, their rematch, and immediately after that, he called Gervonta Davis out. Gervonta Davis, a boxer puncher, a counter puncher, a very limited one, relies on opponents that are going to step into their shots, step into their punches to bring other punches over so that he can catch them in between. And Rayo Valenzuela is just that kind of guy. And it also helps that Rayo, he has been stopped before. He got stopped by Edwin De Los Santos.
These are the fights they're bringing to Amazon.
Davis versus Valenzuela. Canelo versus Charlo. Charlo potentially. Canelo's not blameless in all of this. He's not one of these robots Al has his thumb on. He does have a choice, and I hope he chooses someone else, because I can't support that fight. Even if it is just a keep busy fight. en route to a David Benavidez fight in September, I'd still rather he pick someone else.
Gervonta is set to kick off the deal in late March, on the 30th. That's what the rumor mill is spinning. So you're talking about no fight dates in January, none in February, and they don't get started until the end of March.
That would explain why so many of their fighters that used to box on the Showtime platform have been popping up all over the place on these small shows, flying low on the radar, non-televised cards.
Because there's no fight dates.
None in January, none in February, and only one in March. Towards the tail end of the month, at the very end of March, you wonder, who are they going to put on that card? WBA recently reordered the middleweight title fight between Erislan Lara and Michael Zarafa, his mandatory challenger.
Is that going to be on the undercard of the proposed fight in March? Whoever headlines it. And what about Isaac Cruz? Isaac Cruz, who Oscar De La Hoya said just priced himself out of a Ryan Garcia fight.
Is Isaac going to be on that undercard? Is Rolly going to be on that undercard? Is he going to be running it back with Ishmael Barroso, since he's rumored to have priced himself out of a Ryan Garcia fight as well? There are a lot of guys they've got to accommodate. A lot of guys that need a fight date.
It's a shit show is what it is.
I feel like if the PBC would have went to DAZN instead of Amazon, that would have opened the door for more cross-promotional fights, interesting ones, as that many more boxers would be boxing on the same platform. But Al Heyman would have none of that, so here we are.
And there it is.
An abysmal lineup of fights to kick off the deal. Finally, in men's light heavyweight and cruiserweight news, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh wants the Beterbiev versus Bivol winner to move up to cruiserweight to face Jai Opetaia. And as we all know, if anybody has the means and money to make that happen in a timely fashion, it's the Saudis. The people need to see Artur versus Bivol, Al-Sheikh said. Need to see. What I want to see. I want to see the winner of Artur and Bivol against Opetaia. You understand me? Yeah. This is what I hope to have. We need to see this fight.
The Saudis' interest in the career of Jai Opetaia, who has made an impression on them, has turned out to be very lucrative for him, all without the other cruiserweight champions, without the unification matches. There seems to be a lot of money in it for anyone who challenges Jai.
And a lengthy hospital bill resembling a receipt from Target. In a nutshell, he wants the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol to move up and face Jai. When it comes to the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol, well, I feel that Artur Beterbiev's physique, his frame, and his characteristics as a fighter, he is more adequately suited to move up to cruiserweight and campaign there than Dimitri.
Dimitri doesn't have the body type for it.
As skilled and capable as he's proven himself to be as a light heavyweight, he doesn't have the body type to move up to cruiserweight. He just doesn't have the firepower, and you'd need some, whereas Artur, he's one of the most concussive punchers the light heavyweight division has ever seen. He's one of the most concussive punchers in the sport. 100% knockout percentage, and even at his age, moving up to cruiserweight seems more viable. He might feel reinvigorated, not having to boil all the way down to 175 anymore.
His Excellency continued.
Of course, the biggest fight is Tyson and Usyk now, Al-Sheikh said. Okay, it never happened before. 4 heavyweight belts at the same time. Okay, of course. But as a fan, Artur and Bivol is huge. As a fan, maybe in some regions doesn't have a lot of pay-per-view interest. I understand this. And this is why a lot of promoters doesn't take the risk, because this will cost a lot, but we take the risk and we talk with them. Okay, and now it is only about the details, because you know Artur is a brother. He is Muslim and he has Ramadan, and in Ramadan, he cannot train a lot, you know. We need to give him space to be ready for this fight.
Isn't that what you've been saying?
It's exactly what I've been saying. 2 Russian nationals, even 2 very good ones like Dimitri and Artur, in the American market, it's not going to sell but so much. In the American market, the Canadian market, the UK market, as good a fight as that is, and given what the fighters would want to do the fight, understand that Bob wasn't going to send Artur over to Matchroom, and even if Eddie would send Dimitri over to Top Rank.
What was Top Rank going to offer him for the fight?
Made good money with Canelo, so you can't just offer him peanuts on the dollar for Artur for what's supposed to be the biggest fight in the light heavyweight division, and that's where the Saudis come in. neither Bob or Eddie have to take the risk of doing that fight and it potentially flopping because the Saudis are footing the bill.
But doesn't that mean it would flop on them?
Not necessarily. Whatever it takes to make it will be distributed over a wider area than, say, Top Rank can cover. It won't just be about distributing the fight to the Americans.
Via ESPN.
The fight would be distributed over a wider region by multiple distributors, multiple platforms, say ESPN in America and maybe TNT in the UK and DAZN everywhere else, so the fight gets maximum exposure, and nobody's running the risk.
None of those platforms are on the hook because they're not the ones paying for it. The Saudis are paying for it, so everybody wins. The fighters get the kind of money they want to make, the fans get the fight they want to see, the
promoters get to honor their commitment to their broadcast partners by delivering them that content at no expense to them. Everybody wins. Now, as it pertains to the fight itself between Dimitri and Artur, it's hard to bet against Artur given how dominant he's been. In the past, I've always picked Dimitri Bivol to win that fight via a points decision on the predication that by the time the fight happens, Artur would start to slip. Artur would start to slow down, but he doesn't look to have lost a step.
Because he's older than Dimitri, and because Dimitri's over there with Matchroom and Artur's over there with Top Rank, I figured this is a fight that's going to take a long time to make.
And it did. It's not like it hasn't taken years. It's not like all of this has happened in a jiffy, though thankfully it's here and we have the opportunity to see it. But in the past, I've picked Dimitri to win that fight because Artur's older than Dimitri, and I figured the fight would take a long time to make. And in that time, Artur might start showing signs of decline. Artur might start showing signs of slippage. Based on what we saw in the Callum Smith fight, he hasn't missed a step. He hasn't missed a beat. He's still just as destructive, if not more destructive, than what we're used to. So that makes this fight an even closer fight than I thought it would be.
It's a 50-50 fight for all the right reasons. It's a pick'em fight, not because both guys suck or both guys are flawed, but because both guys are so good.
But because Artur's not showing signs of decline as I originally anticipated, one might feel so inclined to ask, have you changed your pick? Are you now going to go with Artur to win the fight instead of Dimitri? And I'm still going with Dimitri. I'm still going with Dimitri to win a points decision, though I hardly think it's going to be easy. And the main reason is I think Dimitri's got the best feet in the entire light heavyweight division. Better feet than Marcus Brown, than Anthony Yard, than Callum Smith, or Joe Smith.
It's a fight you have to win with your feet, on your feet, moving around and managing a distance.
In and out, throwing straight punches from the outside coming in, initiating the action to set the tempo, having the exchanges happen on your terms, then getting out of there before Artur can counter, because I still think Dimitri's faster than Artur. Faster on his feet with faster hands. Even if he doesn't have as much power, he has speed and a fresher set of reflexes than Artur. I don't think Dimitri will be as available. For all the punches Artur landed on Callum and Anthony and Joe, I don't think Dimitri's going to be there for those same shots. So I still have him winning the fight, but it seems a much closer fight to me now than it did before, and I'm looking forward to it.